This is the Lockpicker 1969, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to the next episode of Interview with a Lockpicker. Today's guest is Lockpicking Paul. Say hi.
Hi, everybody.
So, where exactly are you from?
So I'm in sunny, rainy England, about 50 miles north of London,
Just wait
which is
5 minutes.
out in the countryside.
Just wait 5 minutes and the weather will change.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, how and when did you get into locksport exactly?
Right. So my journey is probably a little different to most. We have to go back about 12 years. And I used to have a personal challenge. Every year I'd try and learn a new skill. And one year it was juggling, and another year it was lockpicking. And I managed to grab a copy of the MIT Guide to Lockpicking. And so I think it was literally the only piece of text out there on lockpicking. Read that, dug around on the internet, and found a Southord PXS 17 lockpick kit. And I ordered that from the States. That arrived in due course, and it felt like something really special because there was very little about lockpicking out on the internet back then.
Yeah.
And I fiddled around with this thing. I raked a couple of wafer locks. I opened my filing cabinet, and I thought, right, tick the box. I can now pick locks, and I put the pick set in a drawer. Now, of course, I couldn't pick locks. I could rake a lock, but I didn't know anything about binding order or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I kind of forgot about it. And then I had a sort of big, high-powered job, and then a few years later, I got made redundant. And I thought, I just can't go back to the corporate life. It's killing me. So I got a job as a lecturer, teaching or lecturing in cybersecurity at the local Institute of Technology. And I was writing a new course, and I thought, what would be so much better than theory is let's do this stuff practically. And then I was doing some penetration testing as part of that course material. And actually, I thought, what? We should do physical penetration testing as well. Let's test to see if you can get into the server cabinet or into the server room, because if someone can,
Yep.
they can do a lot more harm. And if you've never ever looked at a lock on a server cabinet, they're all wafer locks.
Yes, they are.
I inserted a lesson for my students on this is how you break locks. This is how you test to see if they're good or not. It quickly became the most popular lesson. And then I had a number of students who said, we want to do more with this. And they started, they said, can we have a club? And I said, okay, we'll get some money out of a college. And we started a small locksport club. Then we all sort of learned to single wafer pick, which then became single pin picking. We got some old snap Euros off the internet, off the eBay, and some padlocks, and then found that actually, your classic master locks weren't that hard to open. And now you feel like a lock. You feel like a lock picker. I wasn't familiar with the term lock sporter per se back then, so I did some more digging on the internet, and I ended up at the UK Locksport Forum, and spent a couple of years there, just soaking everything up from some amazing guys. And the stark and most obvious thing from that is just how incredibly supportive and welcoming they were.
Yeah.
And so, that was my journey into it and my progression from that point. I would say about a year later, I found Discord, and man, the speed of that thing just terrified the life out of me. So I put that to one side and stayed on UK Locksport. And I've only just recently got back onto Discord.
Okay. So, let me make sure I'm understanding then. You were on Discord and left it, and now you've come back.
Oh, I took a look at Discord. I took a look across it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just saw the speed, pace, and size of the thing, and I thought, I like my happy, quieter, slower paced place over here. I'll come back to that maybe another day. And, your skills improve, and you're seeking a bigger sort of community. I haven't gotten rid of UK Locksport, but just expanded what I'm involved in.
Okay. So, quick question. You indicated you had the Southord PXX 17 when you first got started. but
Yeah.
you dove into some other tools beyond that, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Being in the UK, Law Lock Tools are probably
Oh
the
yeah.
premier
Yep.
tool provider here. And so I started out with a set of the Echo picks. They're the ones with like the serrated edges
Yes.
to the picks. But after a little while, I realized that they were. I just found them uncomfortable.
Yep.
But they have a pro range, and their pro range is awesome. It's a nice laminated pick. And they have like an upper level pro. They do like a really thin 0.4 millimeter pick, which at that point I discovered I was a little heavy handed and broke a few of those. So they teach you to be gentle.
Yeah.
They've been great picks. They really are super picks to use.
Yeah.
I picked up a couple of odd pieces as well. I got the SS Dev 3, the Sparrows
Yeah.
version of the SS Dev.
Yep.
Deep hook, shallow hook,
Yep.
pointy hook. They're great. They are because they're kind of bulletproof. They're pretty good picks. Like I was also picking dimples at that time, and I did have the huck set. I couldn't get on with it. It felt like I was like picking with a spade. Those things are sort of clunky and sharp edged. And I tried to sand them and finish them, but whatever happened, they were never quite right. The metal was not the best quality. They'd bend. So I just dropped the money on a set of multi-pick dimple flags.
Yep.
Oh, and that changed the game for dimple logs for me.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I built quite a collection of tools. I did a video recently where I sort of went through my main pick roll, and you don't realize how much you can just squeeze into one of those multi-pick cases. You can just keep packing stuff in there.
Yep. I do have several multi-pick tools. I'm not a big user of them, but I do use their dimple picks quite a bit. So, with different handles, mind you, but definitely use the pick tips for sure.
Those tips are lovely and strong. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Plus, I've ordered extra just to modify those and use them. So when you were learning lockpicking, though, what were some of the challenges you dealt with that you ran
I
into
mentioned one
learning?
already. So,
Yeah.
yeah, well, gorilla tension, just or picking too deep. That was another one with me. It's just like we're just hammering the pins inside the lock, and it
Yeah.
was MHM. Michael Maynard on UK Locksport said, "You just remember, you're moving a tiny thing, a tiny distance," which is sort of a good message. And once I'd lightened everything up, I was getting a lot more feedback, and locks were starting to open.
Okay.
And that was one of those pivotal moments. I also have the attention span of a gnat. And my desk is absolutely full of locks.
What was it I said to you? Oh yeah. Hey, wait, squirrel.
Yeah, and the slightest thing, I'll be picking a lock. I'll be teaching myself a new lock, and I'm looking around the desk while I'm doing it, and my corner of my eye has caught another lock, which I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I can get that one open quicker than this one, and I'll chop and change, which perhaps you shouldn't do. I mean, I recently picked an Ingersoll 10 lever, which it's taken me 6 months to get to the point where I can pick that thing open. And that's largely because I just distracted myself at every opportunity.
So let me see if I understood correctly what you said. You're picking a lock and thinking about another lock while you're picking that lock.
Yeah, that's not very disciplined, is it? No.
No, but I can tell you what, as someone who does things like that, or I can have multiple thoughts happening all at the same time while I'm doing something else. I can easily admit I have ADHD, and that is definitely one of those things that comes along with that. I can be reading a book, and I could read the page out loud to people and be having a completely different thought in my head about something
Oh, wow.
not even related to
Sounds
what
like
I'm
you're
reading.
me.
Yeah. Yep. That's how it works. Our brains are wonderful things sometimes, and then other times they're frustrating as all heck.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so, um, what would you say early on? So I'm sure you watch YouTube. I'm sure you took in different people on. So who were your influencers early on you from YouTube?
Uh, I think the first two I sort of stumbled on, um, Bosnian Bill and Lockpicking Lawyer, and two more different styles of channel, I guess. You couldn't. I know those guys collaborated a lot on what they did,
Yeah.
but so you have to respect LPL. He is an amazing lock sporter, but the problem with his stuff, me as a new picker, is it was just way too slick. And I'd watch his stuff and I'd be super frustrated that my locks were not opening in the same way that his did. Now, of course,
Yep.
experience, knowledge, feel, touch, and all of that stuff go into that mix. But you don't know that stuff when you're starting out.
Yeah.
And I'm watching Bosnian Bill at the same time, and it was warts and all his channel. You'd get to see the successes, you'd get to see the failures, you'd get to see some frustration.
He's real.
Yeah, it felt a lot more human.
Yep.
And like I said, I'm not trying to diss LPL.
No, I
It's
mean
not.
neither am I.
But just he appealed to me. Bosnian Bill really appealed to me. And actually, when I'm certainly making my videos for my channel, if I goof up, if a tension wrench goes flying across the room, I probably won't do the retake. I'll keep it in.
Okay. Fair enough. I think Lady Lux has done a few videos like that for fun. So all right.
Yeah,
So
mine. The difference is mine isn't fun. It just really happened. I'm just taking out the tank with a wrench.
yeah. So, being involved in the community, you were exposed to the belt ranking system. Have you been pursuing your belts at all?
I have not. I would say not terribly seriously. I've gotten to brown belt, um,
Okay.
and I am presently picking a couple of red belt locks, or learning a couple of red belt locks and a couple of black belt locks at the moment. I'm in no hurry, and which
Yeah.
is just as well
Yep.
because I'm not making great progress with them. And like for me, this is not life and death. It's just a nice thing from a challenge perspective.
Yes.
I mean, it kind of forced me to do stuff which is a little different. I'm not necessarily tied to the whole pin tumbler thing. I like variety. I like lever locks. I like slider locks. I do a lot of tubular locks.
Hmm.
Pump locks. Anything like that. Anything a little different, and it sort of catches my attention. I'm,
Okay.
I'm trying to do a Brahma right now, and that's a whole new thing. So yeah, anything with variety is to me interesting, and quite often I won't spend all my time looking at red and black belt locks. I'm gonna take a look back at purple and blues again because there's
Sure.
still some
Just
interesting stuff there I've not
have
yet
fun.
opened.
Have fun.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. But for
So
me, it's just the joy of doing it.
so to get your blue, you had to do your challenge lock. What was that like?
Yeah, so I made a challenge lock, and I was super pleased with it because I have a bit of an engineering background, so I like how elements interact with other elements, and I like a chain of events. So if you do one thing, then something happens, and then something else is a result of that. So challenge locks really appealed. So I made this challenge lock. There's some nice misdirection in it. And I sent that out into the community. I actually made a video on that challenge lock. It's called First, Furst.
Okay.
And then it sat out in the community for like 6 weeks. And I'm like, oh, no one's picked this damn lock open. I knew who had it. And it turned out he'd injured his wrist.
Oh,
So he had
okay.
the lock. He didn't want to pass it on because I think you're desperate. When you get a challenge lock, you want to open it.
Yep.
And then this weekend, he posted on UK Locksport that he's opened it and showed the photo. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. Someone's opened the lock. I haven't built something which is unpickable,
Yeah.
which is fair, right? Because the whole idea of a challenge lock is you can actually open it. It
Yep.
should be an enjoyable experience.
But you have to learn something.
Yeah, there should be something new in there. And I like the kind of challenge locks I like are the ones that give you wild false sets or they trick you in some way. But at the end of the day, there's still it opens and you get that sense of achievement and satisfaction.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Okay. So you yourself pick challenge locks, correct?
Yeah, I've done a few now.
Okay.
Uh,
Any notable that you'd want to talk about?
um, well, in every respect, they're all notable. I've picked several of Innie's locks, Beer Can Bushcraft, who's a prolific challenge lock maker.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he did something called the Thunderbird set,
Yep.
and it's based on two FAB Euro cylinders. One's reasonably straightforward, but the other one was breaking murder. It took me every night. I tried that lock for like 2 weeks. Eventually, I finally twigged what was going on. It was tricking me into picking it way too deep. It was getting false sets, but if you get a false set out of that lock, you've gone too far. So, yeah, that was a tough journey. It had all tapered pins. It was,
Oh
and his
boy.
locks inside are beautiful. They
Mm-hmm.
are beautifully finished pins. My challenge lock looked like someone had gone at it with an axe.
He chewed off the pieces from the pins and
Yeah, my lock did exactly what I wanted it to do, but it was
yeah,
not a thing of beauty.
I gotcha. Okay, so your YouTube channel. What
Yeah.
inspired you to originally start a channel?
Well, I had no plans. I had zero plans to have a channel. In fact, it was a member of UK Locksport called Nigby. And he actually started picking around about the same time as me. But he was like, you really should get a channel. You should consider that. And I resisted this because I thought, yeah, I don't really have a lot to offer. And there's, channels like Bosnian Bill and LPL out there and Fish Picks and all kind of Daz Evers and people like
Yeah,
that.
yep.
And you're thinking, what can you add? Then I thought it would be nice to have a place to sort of record what I did. My family look at me strangely when heavy boxes arrive full of rusty old locks, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And the channel was something to help explain to the family what I did, and also record my progress.
Yep.
And as I got into the whole community side in YouTube, I started to discover things like pick making
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and other elements, taking part in other people's giveaways or competitions or challenges. And actually, what it's grown into is it's a bit of a variety channel. I like to have like a mixture of things, and it really suits my attention span issues. So I can keep chopping and changing stuff. It's not
Yep.
one picking video after another.
Yep. Definitely. Okay. So, what's the future of your channel going to be?
I think more of the same. I want to try and get it to. I'm generating a huge quantity of videos at the moment, and I don't want to bore people, so that's the first thing. B, I think more reasonable cadence of video releases is probably good, probably better than one every 2 days. I think less actually is probably more. So
Quality over quantity, yeah.
right. So, and I've been taking some time to learn a bit about lighting, editing, and sort of improving my videos. And hopefully, if you look at the early stuff compared to the stuff right now, it's certainly improving.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it to be super, super tight and super clean because that's really not the format. I'm still channeling my inner Bill. Not that I will ever be that good, but still. I
Yeah.
like the more earthy, more human side of it if I can get there.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be variety. Like I said, a lot of tool making, problem solving. I like lock related fidget toys. So I made a couple of those stuff you can have on your desk. You can either sort of pick it. It looks nice, but
Oh,
it also there's mechanical elements to it.
okay. I think I've seen some of you have some videos on some of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned a few names during this interview so far, but do you have any thank yous that you'd like to give to any other lock sporters in the community?
Oh, sure. So, the two groups really. there's the UK Locksport Forum. So that's Tequila Dave, Gaz, MHM, Michael Maynard, Nigby, DMAC, and Jason 34. And that's just like the core of fantastic people who have really helped me and been very welcoming. And then as I've moved towards sort of YouTube, there's some people who comment and are very supportive. So there's a guy called QTube. There's Brett Sucks, you probably know.
Oh yeah.
Roy Salmons. There's a mixture of old and new here. Roy Salmons, Loki, Lock Junkie, Otter. You've interviewed, I think.
Yep.
Parky, Southpaw Pete, and Chevy. And those are sort of like.
And I welcome them all. I welcome them all for an interview.
And I encourage them all because they've all got interesting stories to tell.
Yeah, they do.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
So all right.
And I'm sure I've forgotten someone. So if I forgot you, first of all, I apologize.
What was that?
I was just saying, if I've forgotten someone, I sincerely apologize.
You know what? That happens, and you're put on the spot to answer that question. So,
yeah, absolutely.
That's why I try to give a little time to think on how you want to answer that one. But you literally can go on forever and thank a whole bunch of people. I mean, there's just this community is just amazing. So, I can't say enough good things about it. So I want to dive into what would you say outside of Locksport, what would you say is one or two of your most favorite hobbies that you spend the most time on?
These days, it's probably fishing. So I fish for specimen fish in the UK and Europe, and competitive shooting. I've got huge quantities of hobbies, but those are the two that sort of dominate most of my spare time.
So just out of my own curiosity, what kind of competitive shooting is it?
So that's clay pigeon.
Pigeon.
12,
okay.
Yeah, 12 gauge.
So skeet shooting. Okay.
Well, in the UK we call it sporting. So it's akin to sort of like, it feels like you're going on a bird shoot, but it's simulated with clays.
Yep. Okay. All right, so last question before we wrap up. What is your favorite thing about Locksport?
Oh, that's easy. It's the community all day, every time. And I'm not the most sociable. I'm quite an introvert, but it is nice. Considering I've got a lot of experience with the internet, and it's a pretty trolly zone. Locksport is a troll-free zone, pretty much.
Yeah.
And considering the abilities and skills of a number of the people within it, you'd have thought you'd have come across some elitism, and you don't. It really doesn't happen, which is probably the most refreshing thing about it.
Okay.
I can't remember who said it. Someone said, "I found my tribe," and that really resonated with me.
Yep. I remember someone saying that. I can't place a finger on who said that though. But yeah, that's
they'll probably pop up in the comments and say that was me.
Yeah,
but you know what?
Very true.
It resonated, and it's a true statement.
So, do you have a final message you'd like to give our audience before we wrap up?
Yeah, and you did say, do come up with a final message. I think my final message is pretty much, thank you. Thank you to everybody for the help and the welcome and the support. Thank you to those who watch the channel, and I hope you get something from it. I really do. And just a big thank you for everyone being just decent human beings.
Yes, definitely. I want to thank you for doing this interview, and I had a blast talking with you in the pre-interview. We got a few good laughs in during that as well. So I very much appreciate you taking the time to do this.
It's been a huge pleasure.
I want to, as I typically do when I'm wrapping up, I do want to say to those who are listening, if you haven't been interviewed yet, step forward, get interviewed. Everybody would love to hear your story. You don't have to be some highly accomplished locksporter or lockpicker. It's your journey into the sport and your hobbies and other interests and all that that are also of interest to everybody as well. So let us know who you are. Come get interviewed. I try to make it a fun process and definitely try to leave you at the end of it having done something that you enjoyed doing. So with that, I'm going to wrap this one up. If you are a subscriber, thank you. If you are not yet a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications and all, and hit like on the video. And thanks for listening.